Warning, this podcast contains conversations about real-life subjects and topics. We do not claim to heal, cure, or fix any of your problems. We do claim to serve a God who can. We are not financial advisors, doctors, lawyers, or offering any business or health advice. We do offer prayer, hope, and a conversation that may help you process what you're going through. Side effects may include love, peace, and joy, along with laughing, crying, and occasional bursts of hallelujah and amen. This show is a Story Ministry production, broadcasting live from the Beat Studio in Round Rock, Texas.
I was down. Hope you can see me now. Yeah. See these shackles on me, I'm gonna break free. I am not the man that I used to be. So many places that I still wanna see. Take a look at my life after recovery. I'm breaking free. Life after recovery.
Resolutions. That's what we're going to be talking about today, folks. New Year's resolutions. Happy 2023, Pastor Andy.
Yeah, goodbye 2022.
Yeah. Whew. A lot of people are glad to see it go. I feel like I actually ended 2022 with blessings and started 2023 with blessings. Ended it with family, friends.
That's a good way to make the transition.
Yeah. A lot of people say, I'm so glad 2022 is over, but let's talk about these goals because a lot of people set goals. I was actually thinking about this the other day. We set goals, but a lot of times those goals are more selfish, things that we want to accomplish, or something that we want in life to where we don't even have standards, but we want to go set a goal. So sometimes I think it's important to set a standard or have standards and values in life, not just set goals, because a goal, I think, is kind of a small portion.
What do you think? What's a standard? Let's define that. What do you mean?
Well, that's a good question. What is a standard? What are the things that I think you value the most in your family or in your life or in your relationship, period? I mean, for me, a standard would be like, for my house, we don't use God's name in vain is one of them. We love God. God is the, center of our household. So that is one standard there.
Right.
If I hear my kids say that or cuss or do something, that's definitely not happening.
Yeah.
To where I've been to friends' house and their kids cuss or say something, they start laughing and almost encouraging it. So
sure. Well, yeah. So it's what you value. I think that's a great definition. It's like a minimum value. Like we don't go below this mark, right?
Yeah.
That's a standard. Or this is, everything's got to be at this level. And so we're thankful for standards in other areas. I mean, I'm glad that my Honda Ridgeline truck. I'm glad Honda has certain standards. Right,
yes.
So I know when I drive down the road, my car's not going to fall apart. If I get in a wreck, my airbag's going to work.
Yeah, absolutely.
So standards are important. We know that. Why do you think we struggle so much to keep our own standards?
I think a lot of times we never really thought about the values or standards we have as kids. We've heard of these things. Mm-hmm. As we grow up and become adults, I don't think we ever really stop and think like, all right, I'm married, I have kids. We need to sit down and set our family standards. We need to set our family values. We just start working, we have kids, we have to find the babysitter, get them to school, change them, and we get so caught up in the motions and actions of everyday life that we forget to even set, like, what's important to us. Like, we will spend you and your wife have a date night every week.
Yeah.
That's a standard. That's a value that you guys have because you understand that if you guys don't set that aside and you're not growing together, eventually you'll grow apart. So.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think with standards versus goals, I think that's a great way you phrase that and a good way to think about it. A goal, I think, normally is our attempt to get to our standard, right?
Yeah.
Like, hey, I'm going to have a goal, like I want to get healthy. Well, why do you want to get healthy? Well, because I want that to be the standard of how I live. I want to be able to be fit. I want to be able to get around. I want to be able to move. I want to be able to, have good energy, not be stressed out. Like, these are things I want. So if we know they're good, we know we have goals are good, we know standards are good, what's the challenge in reaching those things? Why do we feel, how many people are taking their 22 goals into 23? The same goal, right? But still unachieved. And it might have been the goal for 21.
Or 20 when COVID came.
And 19 and 18 and 17.
Yep.
Like, how many goals are you carrying into 23 that are the same goals that you had in 13 or in 03 or in whatever? Like, and why is it still a goal and it hasn't become now just a standard of the way you live? It's still an aspiration, but it's not something that is a realization yet.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is like people have almost the wrong motives, I think, for a lot of their goals of what they have or even their standards. It's like, I want to go to the gym. part of it is, to get healthy, and that's what they're telling themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But really another part of it is to maybe get fit or like be able to meet that chick at the, the gym, or that guy at the gym, or that perfect person with the perfect body and the perfect abs and everything. So sometimes we go there and it's for the wrong motivation. Sometimes we can spend too much time in the gym and set too many goals that aren't really aligning with God's will. And then we find ourselves in these situations. But outside of that, I think sometimes we just don't even really think about it. First, a year comes and everybody's throwing out this stuff on social media. So we feel like, hey, I just have to go throw out my goals real quick and show a list so people think that I'm working towards something. But deep down inside, it's not really the root of what we really want, or that makes us happy or brings us peace, joy, or love, or anything else like that. So we're doing all these things, going through all these motions, thinking that eventually we're going to end up at that standard or end up with that love, that peace, that joy, because that's what a lot of us want at the end of the day. But then we're going through it maybe the wrong way, or even thinking about it, or have the wrong perspective for it, because I should be wanting to get in shape and going to the gym because I want to be healthy. Mm-hmm. I want to live a long time for my kids, for a lot of other reasons than just to get fit, get my six-pack, do this, do that. I need to look like that person. Or this friend of mine is going to the gym, so that's going to be my goal too. When you decide that, hey, I'm going to take control of my own health, if it's through recovery and I'm not going to do these things that are bad for my health anymore, or if it's going to the gym or whatever, I think a lot of times we just have to kind of have that perspective of what we really want to accomplish with it. Is it aligning with God, and will it really make us happy at the end of the day? Because the thing is, we go through motions, but if we really don't find any joy, it doesn't make us happy, we will quit.
Well, I think your point about aligning with God is a big deal, because that's where the joy comes from, is when we're doing His will and His purpose for our life, like what we're designed to do. We actually talked about this yesterday at church. My wife and I actually preached together, so she opened up talking about uncluttering your heart. So in other words, what's in there that needs to come out, and before you start trying to set up new stuff. So sometimes we set new goals and new aspirations for life, and there's no room inside of us, mentally, emotionally, in our heart. There's no room for the new, because we're still holding on to the old. So here's an example. If one of your New Year's goals, your New Year's resolutions, is that I want to have a better relationship with my kid's parent. Say I'm divorced, separated. I want to have with the other parent. I want to have a better relationship. Well, that's something I want to add into my life, is a better relationship and better communication, right?
Yeah.
Okay. How am I going to add that into my heart and into my life if I already have my heart and my life full with bitterness and anger towards that person?
Yeah.
There's not room. And so before I want to add that, I've got to go in and actually move this other furniture out, right? Like, I don't have room for this couch because I'm bringing in a new couch. The old bitterness has to go because now I'm trying to bring in like care and kindness, and that we have to trade out. And because we don't want to do the work of cleaning out the old stuff, we don't have room for the new stuff. And then we find that I can't reach these goals. I want to get physically fit, and I want to like lose weight or do whatever. Okay, that's a good goal for health. But if you don't remove some of the old that you had in there, I overeat because of stress, I overeat because of anxiety, I overspend and I'm in debt, so now I overeat to comfort myself. If I don't deal with those other things that are filling up my life, I don't have room for a healthy me to come in.
And so that's bringing your old problems into a new season.
And expecting a new result, for sure.
Expecting a new result, yeah.
No,
exactly.
You're bringing the same person. So, uncluttering and taking some things out of your own heart first, and clearing that out. And then once you get some of that stuff emptied out, then you look and say, okay, what do I want to put it in there now? But to set a goal for the future that you want to actually achieve, that you actually want to change a new standard, a new way of living, I think you need to first empty out what doesn't belong.
Yeah.
Second, decide what does belong. And
set
then,
that standard of what belongs.
Third, start taking action on developing that new thing. But we don't do that typically. What we do is we just start by trying to develop the action.
Yeah.
Right? But we haven't done any of the other two. And so removing the old, now finding the good, the new. You touched on something earlier. You said, well, how do you decide what's the good thing that you want to do? Is it something for your own self? Is it something for that? I believe that the best thing that we can do is look to God and His calling and His purpose for our life, what He's designed us for, and look to His Word and say, what should my New Year's goals be? You know, is it to be in more shape? Is it to have more money? Is it to have, whatever the thing might be? If it was God, if I really believe that He wants to be a part of my life and He lives in my heart and He's the one that is giving me a hope and a future, what would He want my goals to be for this new year?
That's good.
And have you thought about that before you just start writing stuff down?
Yeah, what does God want me to do?
What
aligns with God and His will too, because a lot of things we have these self-willing things that are going to please us or pleasing to the flesh, but at the end of the day it's not really that pleasing or to ourselves or God, to tell you the truth. Like, I see a lot of people, I'm going to get my car in 2023, I'm going to get this new house in 2023. I even heard something today that I've seen a thing that's kind of disturbing a little bit. It says you have 34 people in a garden or something, and you killed like 30 of them. How many people are left in the garden? I don't know, something like that. It's going around Facebook. But then I'm thinking to myself, why would you even want to think about killing 34 people? And then the thing that it says is that you're a critical thinker. And at first I thought, critical thinker is pretty good, right? But isn't a critical thinker thinking critically about the situation?
Yeah,
almost like a
that.
negative.
No good.
Yeah, it's not a negative. It's not a positive, like, to be a critical thinker. It's actually looking at the negative of it. Sometimes, a different perspective, which could be good, but that's like, you're a critical thinking person. These people are bragging about it and say, hey, I beat this person, that person. But, like, what if you had 34 people in the garden and you help feed them and you help them grow? What could happen compared to thinking about, like, this is like just starting the new year and you're thinking about, and I see it all over Facebook, like, you kill these people in the garden. Why would you even want to think about killing people?
Well, that's the thing is, those things seem so harmless. Like, it's just a game. It's just a thing that we're trying to figure out. Well, yeah, but if you're constantly thinking about those things, what's it producing in your life? The Bible talks about it. It says that the mindset on the flesh, in other words, on these worldly things and our worldly desires, is death. But the life set on the spirit is life and peace. And so if you spent 2022 with anxiety, stress, anger, frustrations, lack of fulfillment, emptiness, okay, you can do a lot of different activities to try to make your life better in 2023. You can buy new things. But what you really need to do is set your mind on new things, right? Because it's the mind set on the spirit is life and peace, right? So what are you setting your mind on? Now, there's a good resolution, a good New Year's goal. What am I going to set my mind on this year that's different than what I set my mind on last year? Because I can set my mind on good things like, contentment. Yeah. I could set my actions towards I want to make more money, I want to have a better car, a bigger house, I want to do this, I want to do that. Well, that's fine. But even if I get those things, if my mind is not set on contentment, I'm still going to be like, well, I thought I had a really nice truck, and I pulled up to the stoplight, and a guy bought one that had 2 more upgrades than mine. Yep. Now what? I'm not as cool as him. I wish I would have gotten those mud flaps. And then you start to get that same way because the mind hasn't changed. So how can you set your mind on contentment? How can you set your mind on things that involve being thankful, being grateful, on enjoying life as you're developing? One more example is if my mind is, I want to work out and get in better shape. Okay, that's great. If my whole mind is set on the goal of I want to lose 30 pounds, my contentment doesn't come until I lose 30 pounds, right? Now at 30 pounds, maybe I feel better and I might get excited because I hit my goal, but then the contentment's gone because my goal was 30 pounds. And I'm like, okay, what's next? Now I got to shift and I'm unfulfilled until I reach the next thing. A different way to do that is to say what contentment would do and what finding the joy in things would do, setting your mind on the spirit would do is, wow, God's given me a body that's healthy. I'm thankful for that. Yeah. And now I'm at the gym working out, and I'm going to lose 30 pounds, but I'm enjoying working out. I'm enjoying the process. I'm enjoying the journey because it's the journey that is actually using this healthy body God gave me that's getting healthier. But the fact that I can get up and walk around and do things, well, that's something I'm thankful for. So we can actually be thankful and content in the process, which will lead to actually accomplishing more because we don't get burnt out in the middle because we're always discouraged. And whenever I get there, no, we're enjoying the process too.
Yeah, I like that. I've been doing marketing pretty much my whole life. I kind of created, but made this marketing system I call multi-action marketing. Not multi-level marketing, multi-action marketing. It's putting little to no more work, but getting 10 times, 20 times the results. But also thinking about that and incorporating it with our New Year's goals. Think about it like, yes, you could get physically fit, which is good for your body, and you want to keep your body healthy. But what about spiritually and mentally fit?
Sure.
So isn't that a good goal to say, hey, I want to get spiritually fit, I want to get more aligned with God, but I also want to get mentally fit. So when this anxiety comes or the stress comes, it's not attacking me and repeating and repeating and repeating in my head. I'm actually controlling it, and I actually can find peace, joy, and I'm content no matter what the situation is.
That's great.
Yeah. So
How do you get mentally fit? I think the same way that you get physically fit. Years ago, my wife and I were weight loss and health coaches, and we did that for about 7-8 years. And one of the things, people would go out and they'd work out, but they would still eat the same garbage, right? And so they would never get more fit. And they're like, well, I'm working out, I don't understand what's wrong. Well, because what you're putting in, right, is still terrible. And so, yes, you're taking good action, but you're also still filling in with all this bad, right? And so when you sit down, you have the nachos and the wings, and then you have some ice cream, and you have a couple beers, you're doing all that, and then you're also like going and exercising and running on the treadmill. That's fantastic, but the bottom line is you're still putting all this junk in, so you're not going to get healthy. You have to take action, and then your intake, what's coming in, has to be geared towards health. Yeah. That's where we get that phrase, you are what you eat, right? Yeah. Well, mentally, it's the same way, right? People will say, okay, I'm going to start making some positive affirmations. So you can get up in the morning, read some scriptures, confess the promises of God over your life, or maybe get up in the morning and you have a list of affirmations you read, or whatever it is you're doing, and you're getting in front of that mirror and you're saying that. Well, that's your exercise. But then the rest of the day, you're listening to music that's tearing you down, talking about how depressed you are, talking about how bad the world is, or you're watching movies that are all about death or killing or horror or some terrible thing. You're on your phone scrolling and looking at, things that are inappropriate or things that harm you. So your intake is all this garbage. But then, but I'm reading a book and I'm saying affirmations in the morning, so I should be feeling better. Yeah. Well, no, you're not.
What are you spending more time with? And that's also the thing is like multi-action. What I was talking a little bit about earlier is when you are working out, can you listen to a Bible verse or to the Bible app? Because I knew one lady, she told me she does some type of workout system. They get like a check-in every time they go do these workouts. And they had somewhere around 1,400 or 1,500 workouts. And I just asked her, like, hey, what do you listen to when you work out? She's like, oh, like hip-hop and rap and stuff that just, motivates me. I was like, think about it. If you would have listened to the Bible app, you could have listened to the Bible all the way through probably like 5 or 10 times with the 1,400 check-ins, and you're at least doing an hour every time. That's 1,400 hours. You could have taken that opportunity and filled yourself with something good that builds you up mentally, physically, and spiritually. So it wasn't just one aspect of it, but then also, like you said, like, what do you listen to once you get in the car? So you read the Bible in the morning, you align yourself with God, you listen to some Christian songs, but then after that, it's the hip-hop channel, or it's, your favorite songs from the 80s and 90s that aren't really filling you with, that God-loving or, I heard one time, you pray and ask God to help you all the time and to take away this fear and take away this anxiety, but then we go to Facebook, then we go to the TV and the news, and all we want to do is fill ourselves with fear.
So news is a great one. Let's look at that for a minute. So you don't want to have anxiety, you don't have anger, you don't have fear, you don't have worry, but you only spend 15 minutes in a day listening to something positive, and you've got 5 hours in the day of listening to news. Some people have the news or talk radio, or they have something going on in the background, in their car, at the house, in their living room, wherever, 24 hours a day. Yep. And they're wondering why they're so stressed out, why they're so freaked out. And it's like, well, but if I don't listen, if I don't hear all this stuff, I'm not going to be informed.
Exactly,
informed. Well, that's not true, because you can get informed by checking headlines and staying up to date real quick on the news. But if you want to get transformed, you've got to choose what's going inside of you. Yeah. And you've got to make it the type of thing that's producing the type of person that you want to become. And so you can get informed, you can get transformed. Choose transformation, because that will actually make a bigger difference in the lives of people, including yourself, but your community. So if you're worried about your city, your country, you're worried about your job, you're worried about kids, you're worried about all these things that the news causes us to be afraid of, that's great, but how are you going to make a difference? You're going to make a difference by transformation.
Well, I know a lot of people, I'm not going to call out anybody because I do have some family members I was going to use for an example, but just in case, I'm just going to leave their names out. But they will spend hours, like you said, on the news, right? Mm-hmm. Say they have to keep informed. What about all these things going in, Ukraine and all these other places? Thing is, they'll watch the news and see what's going on with Ukraine for 5 hours in that day, but they won't pray for an hour about the people in Ukraine. Yeah. Think about if you spent that time. What if you stopped watching the news for 5 hours and spent that 5 hours a day praying for Ukraine? Do you think that could make probably a bigger difference than you just watching the news, getting this fear, getting this anxiety, thinking things are going to happen? Because most people who watch the news, they don't even take action on it.
Yeah, well, and that's a global thing. So let's even take it local. Is say you're a single dad out there, or you're a single mom, and you've come out of addiction, because this is a recovery podcast, and you lost custody, or now you're in split custody, or something's going on. Like, you could spend a lot of time worrying about, I wish I was a better dad. I wish I hadn't screwed up. I wish I didn't go to jail. I wish I hadn't had an addiction. I wish I wouldn't have blown it. Well, that's great. I mean, that's a lot of regret, but regret does not lead towards anything new happening. So what if you spent that same amount of time really thinking about, well, how do I be a good dad now? How do I actually add value to my kid's life as a mom now?
Yes.
Well, I only get to see him once a month. Okay, rather than spending 3 weeks leading up to that worried and stressed out about how terrible of a parent you've been, or how you never get to see him, how they probably don't want to see you, what if you spent those 3 weeks thinking, like, what can I do, and really planning out, what can I do with my 1 week with them, or my 1 day with them that's going to add value and encourage them, build them up? And you thought that way, and you went into each meeting prepared that I'm going to love them and add value as much as I can in this time and enjoy them.
Yes.
So that when I leave, but you're going to end up doing whatever you've been meditating on, thinking about, and filling your life with. And that's why, when you're setting New Year's goals, or you're doing these different things, if your goal doesn't match what you're meditating on, thinking about, and taking in, you're never going to reach your goal.
Yeah.
If you are wanting to get more physically fit, well, you got to start listening to some podcasts on fitness. You got to start watching some things on fitness. You got to put fitness around you. The Bible says, guard your heart, for out of it spring the issues of life. What you're allowing in your heart and allowing in your mind, your life will start to produce that, right? So if you're thinking about working out and you're seeing that, you get a health magazine, you got things like that around, you're going to end up naturally wanting to make better decisions, work out more, eat better food. If you're putting spiritual things around, about serving, about praying, about giving, about being generous, about those types of things, you're going to end up then naturally wanting to take those actions.
Yeah.
It's so much harder to try to take those actions if everything around you that you're allowing to be around you is going a different direction. Now you're always trying to swim upstream in your own life. So you got to choose the direction that you want to go, and then make your surrounding environment match that.
That's good. That's really good.
And that makes it easier. That's pushing the easy button.
That is the easy button. A lot of times we make it harder, and it's ourselves that are making it harder, not necessarily the people around us. Just like Pastor Andy was saying, a lot of times we build ourselves up. Like, you only get your kids one week a month or whatever. So instead of the 3 weeks, like Pastor Andy was saying, you planning it, you're just thinking about how much you hate their mom, how it's her fault that you don't have the kids, how it's her fault you were lonely or divorced. It's her fault why you have financial burdens or situations. I knew this one guy, he was super hurt. He had to pay child support to his ex-wife, and it was a good majority of his check, and he was upset. It just destroyed him, but every time he talked about anything, it didn't matter what it was. It had to do with her. Like, something went wrong, it was her fault. Something bad went on in life, it was her fault. He'd get his kids, he'd spend the whole time with his kids talking about how bad their mom was, trying to use their mom as like a tool to, I don't know, go one way or another. Just making sure that they knew how bad their mom was. But at the end of the day, he's the one who chose her. He's the one who had kids with her. And it wasn't them. I mean, it wasn't their choice to have their mom or their dad. But now the dad's trying to tell them and make sure they know how bad of a mom or a dad.
So imagine you're the kids, right? Mm-hmm. And so put yourself in their shoes. Every so often, my dad comes and picks me up.
Yeah.
And my dad takes me out, and we do some fun things. He encourages me. He goes and watches my games. He gets involved in my sports. He takes me out to go see some sights. We walk on the nature trails. We spend time together. We go see a good movie. My dad loves on me, encourages me, and I'm only with him for, a few days. But boy, I know he's going to pick me up on Friday, and I know I'm going to have 3 days of my dad loving on me.
Yep.
Versus, my dad's coming. And every time my dad picks me up, I got to listen to 3 days about how bad my mom is.
Yep.
And so who's losing there? The dad's losing and the kid's losing because the dad's not preparing himself for what's ahead. And so much of our life that we experience these bad things is because we've had our mind and our heart and our emotions set on something negative for so long. It goes back to that same verse we talked about earlier, that the mind set on the flesh is death, but the mind that's set on the spirit is life and peace. So if you're making New Year's resolutions and goals, and you're thinking about what's for my new year, think on things that bring life and that bring peace, and let your actions grow out of those thoughts. Don't just try to like take action while your mind is still set on the negative, because what will happen is you will end up getting exhausted trying to do actions that are out of alignment with your thoughts.
Yeah.
And then you'll end up quitting. But if you keep quitting a goal, it's because your thoughts are not in alignment with the goal. So you got to get your mind and your thoughts and your heart in alignment with the goal. Then the goal becomes natural. It's an outflow of your heart. Guard your heart with all diligence, because out of it spring the issues of life. I've lined my heart and my mind up with it, life and peace. So physical life, physical peace. I want to be healthy. Relational life, relational peace. Right. I want to have good relationships and speak well of people and forgive and do those things. Emotional. Life and peace. I want to be stable. I don't want to be up and down and crazy. Like, set all the areas of your life that way in your thoughts and what you allow in your heart. Next thing you know, your actions will start to proceed out of the same thing. And that's where the failure's at. If you keep having the same goals and failing, it's not an action failure. It's a thought and a heart failure first. It just shows itself up in the action. And if you want it to be different this year, you got to go to the root cause, and the root cause is your thoughts, and it's where your heart's at.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, honestly, I was there and stuck there for a while. Right after I got divorced, I was only getting my kids half the time, which was hard for me. And it was easy for me to get stuck in a thought pattern and root myself in something that wasn't good. But to tell you the truth, I started praying more about it, asked God what I should be doing. And really, he started showing me stuff like, I may only get my kids every other week, but if I coach basketball, I get them even on the weeks I don't have them, because they have basketball practice. On the weeks I don't have them, I can still go to lunch and enjoy lunch with my kids. There's no ruling or judge ruling that says I can't go have lunch with my kids on a week that's not mine. It just says that they're going home with their mom. Yeah. There's a lot of things that you could do if you just kind of pray about it and say, all right, you know what? Maybe I was a bad dad. Maybe I've done some bad things, but I don't want to be a bad dad anymore. So one of my goals is not to be a bad dad. What are some of the things I could do not to be a bad dad? Let's spend more quality time with my kids. Let's not talk bad about their mom, because you know what? It doesn't help them out any, and they're not the one who chose her in the first place. I'm the one who is, and they actually live with her, so it's not going to increase the quality of life for them by me talking bad about them or bad about her.
Well, and how do you know that the person, this is for everybody, but how do you know that the person that you feel bad about, that you maybe are carrying a bitterness for or having bad thoughts about, how do you know that over the last year, 2 years, 3 years, 6 months, whatever it might be, that they haven't been doing soul searching and working just as hard on trying to become a better person as well? And you've got them stuck in a time capsule, like you've got them frozen, like as who you knew them to be 5 years ago or 2 years ago or 6 months ago when, things got broken off or when they disappointed you. On the flip side, you don't want anybody freezing you in a time capsule. And so when we continue to have bitterness and to complain and to be frustrated about somebody, what we've done is we've chosen to freeze them into their worst moment of time and say that is who they are and that's who they'll always be. And we freeze them there. We don't give them the opportunity to be changing like we are, to be growing like we are, to be somebody who made mistakes and maybe has some regrets and is trying to improve themselves in their life as a parent, as a person, as whatever they might be. And so we've got to give people the same grace and the same forgiveness and the same ability to change in 2023 as what we're looking for people to give us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, 2023, I think just really praying and asking God what you should do, not just setting your own goals. Asking God goals are definitely going to be better, because it's going to help get your promise of what God's promised, too. I mean, if we could believe it helps us receive it, not just, we don't have to wait to heaven to receive God's gifts. We could actually receive some here. So definitely aligning your goals and also coming up with a strategy or a plan that makes it more realistic. I can want to go to the gym every day, but like Pastor Andy said, if it's only to lose 30 pounds and after I lose 30 pounds, that's it. Or if I don't lose that 30 pounds, then I'm going to quit because I can't reach that level of achievement. Then I'm feeling like I lost and I'm feeling more like a loser, because that's not really helping anything. So really setting realistic goals that we could take small steps to achieve. Sometimes we want to set these big, huge goals. Yeah, 30 pounds is great, 20 pounds is great. But what about just, making it to the gym the first month? And just even committing and just taking that time and getting healthy. But also asking God, because sometimes it's not about going to the gym. You see these people and you think about gym, and I'm thinking about free weights and row machines, and I'm thinking about, bikes and all these other things. But to tell you the truth, God may say, hey, you like swimming, go swim. God may say you like to ride bikes, go ride a bike. Or God says, you know, I give you beautiful sunsets, take a walk around sunset and go enjoy that at some time. It's not always getting some crazy workout, waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning and, you know, drinking some, you know, protein powder and just kind of going on that. Right. It's like really everybody's unique, and God has a unique relationship with each person, and he's made each of us unique. So what may work for some person at 5 a.m. or 4 a.m. at a gym may not work for you. But realistic goals that actually work for you. Yes, you can lose weight. Yes, you can do that by cutting down some of what you eat and also working out. But you don't need to wake up at 4 or 5 a.m., go to some gym. But also, what is your heart behind it all? Is it really just to lose weight, to what? Look better and prove your point to the person that was with you? Or is it really for you to change and be a healthier person to help more people?
Yeah, well, let's close up. We're at the end here, so let's pray. And hey, if you're listening to this or watching this and you are saying, man, I want to have a better year than last year, it's possible. And believe it or not, you probably already had a better year last year than what you think if you really go back through and dig through and look at some of your successes instead of some of your failures. So, Father, we just pray that each person, Lord, that's listening would be encouraged. Lord, that you'd remind them of their successes of 2022.
Yes, God.
And that you would give them hope, Lord, for the future of 2023. God, they would continue to take each step, Lord, not to grow weary in doing good, for in due time they will reap if they don't lose heart. So, Lord, we pray they'd be encouraged in their recovery and in the new life that you've given them, and they would continue, God, to grow in you, and that you who began a good work in them would be faithful to complete it. Amen. You guys have a good one. Amen. Thanks for joining us.